Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Pure Ambition Podcast. Today we are solo, and we're talking about the 5 people who I would choose to live in my neighborhood. If I could pick 5 neighbors. I'm looking outside in my little cul-de-sac right here, thinking about who I would want there. And this was one that I actually struggled with. I went back and forth with a lot because, 5 people, right? Like, that is so hard to think of the 5 people that you'd want to be seeing, interacting with every single day. And honestly, I really don't interact with my neighbors, so not saying that like you're buddies with your neighbors. Anyway, we're getting off topic. 5 people who I would want to live in my neighborhood. Number 1, Matthew McConaughey. I've mentioned before that he is my dream podcast guest. I've listened to Green Lights, his book, about 3 times, and I am just mesmerized by his character, by his aura, by his essence, by the way that he lives his life, by the perspective that he has. And listening to his book, the perspective that he's had, not just now, like as a super successful actor, leader, entrepreneur, all the other things, it was like from a young age where he had this like deep curiosity and, desire to live the most fulfilling life possible. And he's just had an epic story. And I would just love to sit around a campfire, roast some s'mores, and listen to McConaughey tell stories. That just, I don't know if you can get much better than that. Number 2 is Jesse Itzler. And I actually had a surreal moment this past week. I was at Running Man in Kingston, Georgia for the Running Man Festival from All Day Running Company, a company that Jesse Itzler founded and that I've had the pleasure of collaborating with to create some content over the past couple of months. And when I was laying in the hospital bed, I posted a couple days after my cardiac arrest explaining what happened, just sharing my story, sharing a little bit about what had happened, the whole situation, and how I was on the mend. And Jesse actually commented on my post and was like, thinking about you, man, so glad you're okay, and just keep grinding. And I was like, whoa, that was crazy to me. Like, he's somebody who I found, when I started creating content back in 2020, he was like one of those guys who I would look at. I would look at I think I found him on LinkedIn, actually, and I would look at his LinkedIn posts every single day. I still do. But now he's just an electric human being, and I love his concept of building your life resume and his stories of just getting himself into rooms where he shouldn't be or where people told him that he couldn't be, and just making your own seat at the table. So I love that concept from Jesse, and getting to meet him this past weekend at Running Man, him saying, yo, man, I'm so grateful for you to be here. I'm so grateful you're okay. I'm a fan of your content. I was like speechless, and he's just an epic dude, and he would be an epic neighbor. Number 3, Serena Williams. Serena Williams has been somebody who I have been extremely infatuated with, just the level of dominance that she's had for so long, and her crazy story of, growing up with her father just being like crazy obsessed with her success and Venus's success. But just to see all the things that she's had to overcome, the Grand Slam titles that she's won, and just being literally one of the most dominant female athletes of all time, if not, one of the greatest athletes of all time. And she has been somebody who I'm not really a big fan of tennis, but I would love to just pick her brain on, what it takes to be at the top of your game for so many years. And she's got an amazing story, and I think she would make an epic neighbor. Number 4, John Mayer. This might come as a shock to a lot of you guys, but I am a huge John Mayer fan. He's my favorite artist. I saw him in Philly when I was a senior in high school, and at that point, I was like, yeah, John Mayer's cool, Waiting on the World to Change. That's a bop for sure, but, I was never a huge John Mayer fan until then, and I saw him in person and was freaking blown away. And I listened to, stories about him and how he just would sit in his room on his guitar just practicing his chords and for 12, 13, 14 hours, 16 hours a day, just strumming, getting better at his craft. And also him, I really appreciate his vulnerability about how he would get drunk before like a lot of his concerts, and drunk and high and twisted and all kinds of things, because he had this imposter syndrome about him that, like, who was he to be up there performing in front of all those people, and he would get crazy nervous. And I relate to that in a way where I've struggled with that imposter syndrome too. But one, I'll go back to the campfire, roasting s'mores. How dope would that be to just have McConaughey talking about life, and then John Mayer just strumming away at the guitar while we're all hanging? That would be freaking epic. But I look at the dedication to the craft that he has, and being around people who are dedicated to their craft like that is motivating, that's inspiring. And I'm very interested in artists and the way they think and how they can just create something from nothing. And music is so powerful. And I would love to, pick John Mayer's brain and just, see what it's really like, the life of a musician, the life of an artist, because that's something that like I'm not super familiar with, but I'm really, really interested in. And number 5, this was a tough one. I went back and forth with a lot of different people here, and if you ask me this question in a month, 2 months, a year, 5 years, might change. But number 5 is Joe Rogan. And I am, being a podcaster myself, like Joe Rogan's been one of the podcasts that I've listened to for so long. He's obviously been, one of the earliest ones in the game. I think I was like 10 years old when he started podcasting, which is pretty insane to think about. But he's gotten the opportunity to chat with some of the world's top leaders, thinkers, performers, innovators, and I would love to just sit and talk with him, maybe have a glass of whiskey, go shoot some archery, cook up some elk. He has had an insane life, an insane journey of how he was, an MMA fighter and a comedian, and then one of the earliest podcasters. And he's one of those people he's on team human. Like, he's not pulled in one way or another on like kind of any certain topic. He's very neutral and just wants to have people share their stories, share really, he's had some people on there who have not been on like any other podcast. They only choose to go on Joe Rogan podcast. Some people who like you'll never hear from, you'll never know what they're up to. And he gets the opportunity to talk with these people, to chat with them, to pick their brain, and really to just try to understand like what makes them tick. And he's lived a very full life, and he comes from very humble beginnings. He grew up in Boston and was not handed anything, earned everything that he got, and just followed his passions, and they've led him to really being a true influential person. Like, I call people like him, like all these people that are on my list, like those are true influencers, like they influence people in a true positive sense. So that's another tangent of I don't love the word influencer in the sense that it is used on social media today. But these 5 people have really been people that I look at and try to emulate and aspire to be like, because they are extremely powerful people and really just talented at what they do and just committed to their craft. So those are my 5, and I would love to hear who your 5 are. So leave a comment, shoot me a message, let me know who your 5 neighbors would be, and really think about that, because you always hear you're the sum of the 5 people that you're closest with or you spend your most amount of time with. So those are 5 people that I would want to spend the most amount of time with. So thank you guys for tuning into today's episode. Like I said, if you are thinking about these 5 and you want to let me know, give me a shout. Let me know. Leave a comment. I love you guys. Thank you as always for tuning in. If you enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, and share with somebody who you think would find value in it. And I will see you in the next one. Peace.